Donald Trump is currently forcing airports across the country to shut down. Now, I am not here to say that Stephen Miller is some kind of genius, but what he is, without question, is a calculating and cold-blooded operator. That much is clear. However, Donald Trump's push to move this plan forward is already running into real resistance. And that resistance is coming from Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who has shown Democrats all across the country exactly what it looks like to genuinely fight back against this administration. No backing down, no compromising, no bending to the pressure, ever. And Donald Trump is absolutely not happy about it. We are going to break down exactly how Zohran is pushing back against Donald Trump's plan and how this airport takeover is already starting to fall apart. But it starts with Zohran delivering some good news first, not just standing against the bad, but actively moving things forward. He laid out his fight against Trump alongside Jen Psaki right here. Mayor Mamdani has been beating the odds and delivering win after win after win right here in New York, while the rest of the country seems to be falling apart on an almost daily basis. Honestly, from the outside looking in, New York right now feels like nothing but good news, positive energy, and people actually thriving. And that is not an accident.
You've clearly been focused on cutting waste and going through the budget, I assume dollar by dollar, a little more than that, to find savings so that you can do the things you want to do. Having just gone through all that, I just have to ask you about some of the spending we've been seeing out of Washington. I mean, in particular, Trump's decision to use $1.8 billion of taxpayer money as a slush fund for his aggrieved supporters. I mean, that's a lot of money. The people it's going to is its own separate outrageous problem. And the same people who are defending this fund are the ones who spent months claiming you were going to bankrupt New York with your policies. I know, because we've talked a number of times, you never stop smiling through all this, but that has to make you furious, right?
I think it just shows that it's never been about the amount of money. It's about what it's being spent on. And there is a politics across this country that is completely at peace with the idea of spending billions of dollars to enrich those who already have more money than they know what to do with. And what they are offended by is the idea of spending that money to help those who've been left behind by our politics.
It truly is the greatest city in the world, and a big reason for that is the leadership of Zohran Mamdani. He is currently running his own government efficiency program, and let's be clear, this is nothing like Doge. This is not about slashing benefits for working people or gutting public services. This is about actually finding and eliminating real waste, a large portion of which has been traced back to the consultant industry in New York City. He is balancing the budget. He is delivering real, meaningful results. And he is doing all of this while Republicans are desperately trying to paint him as some kind of threat to the public. And it is simply not working. But here is where things get interesting. Republicans are starting to realize that they cannot make Zohran look bad by letting him govern, because he is governing successfully. So instead, their strategy has shifted to attacking his city directly. And that is exactly what Markwayne Mullin, Donald Trump, and Stephen Miller's latest plan is designed to do. The Trump administration is drawing up plans to stop processing international flights in sanctuary cities. Markwayne Mullin, the Homeland Security Secretary, stated that this move would come as a direct response to protests outside an ICE detention facility in New Jersey. The Trump administration has now threatened to halt international flight processing in major cities across the country, framing it as a reaction to demonstrations against immigration enforcement. But let's call it what it really is. This is nothing more than deliberate cruelty. Mullin stated during a Fox News interview on Tuesday that the administration is actively drawing up these plans in response to days of clashes at an immigration detention center in New Jersey. The plan is to pull federal immigration processing services from cities that have so-called sanctuary laws, laws that prevent or limit local police from working alongside federal immigration agents. Mullin specifically called into question whether federal immigration services should continue operating at Newark Liberty International Airport, particularly while Democratic lawmakers were showing up to join protests and publicly criticizing the conditions inside the Delaney Hall ICE facility in Newark, where detainees are currently being starved and subjected to deeply inhumane treatment. And so Donald Trump's pattern of immigration abuse continues to get worse. These horrific conditions have been widely documented and reported on. That is exactly why mass protests are taking place at this facility, and rightfully so. This is disgusting. This is inhumane. And now Donald Trump and Markwayne Mullin are threatening to pull immigration processing officers away from airports, effectively shutting them down in Democratic-led cities just to redirect those resources to detention facilities that do not need more enforcement officers. What those facilities actually need is basic medical care, supplies, and food for the people being held inside. But Zohran Mamdani is not backing down. And he made that absolutely clear. We will not be threatened. We will not be threatened. Every Democrat in America, not just on this issue, but across the board, should be taking notes from Zohran Mamdani and looking at what is happening in New York City right now. Follow Zohran's lead and you will win. You will build a positive, forward-moving agenda. You will stop surrendering to Donald Trump before the fight even starts. You will stand up to him, and remarkably, you will charm him so effectively that he ends up sending billions of dollars to your city. That is exactly what Zohran has done. Zohran has never once sold out his values. He has not worked with the Trump administration, he has played the Trump administration.
Currently drawing up plans to say, listen, in these sanctuary cities where the local radical left Democrats aren't allowing us to do our job and enforce federal laws, then we shouldn't be processing international flights into their cities either.
I mean, that is a very significant statement. I don't have to tell you. New York's JFK airport processes more international flights than anywhere else in the country. What is your response to that threat from Secretary Mullen?
Our laws and our values are not bargaining chips. We will not be threatened to leave so many of the New Yorkers who call this city home prey to these kinds of cruel policies. We are proud of the fact that we are a sanctuary city. We're proud of that for a number of reasons. One, it is a policy designed to keep New Yorkers safe. Two, we know that here in our city, we are proud of the more than 3 million New Yorkers who are immigrants. I'm one of them. And we know that in a city like this, it is incumbent upon us to live up to the ideals of the Statue of Liberty, not just tell people to come and look at it when they visit from across the world.
And he understands something crucial if you stand up firmly to Trump and perhaps quietly remind him that as two New Yorkers, you share certain common interests and you tap into Trump's biggest weakness, his deep insecurity and his desperate need to be liked and admired while giving him absolutely nothing in return and still calling him out publicly for what he as Zohran called him a fascist directly to his face, you win. That is the formula. That is how it works. So Zohran is right. You cannot cave. You cannot surrender. And this airport plan is already blowing up in Donald Trump's face. Does he seriously think shutting down major airports across the country is a good idea at a time when people can barely afford to fly as it is? Especially when he himself is driving up the cost of a barrel of oil through a never-ending war that is making gas prices and jet fuel more and more expensive by the day. Donald Trump is going to disrupt supply chains. He is going to throw transportation into chaos. This is not a smart move. This will not end well for him. And so Zohran, being exactly who he is, should continue to hold the line. And every other Democrat in this country should take a page directly out of his book. We just saw Governor Abigail Spanberger, and look, she is just not my kind of Democrat. She is a corporate Democrat, a cave-to-the-right Democrat. Essentially a conservative Democrat veto a bill that would have stopped ICE from entering hospitals, schools, churches, and the community spaces where people come together in Virginia for absolutely no good reason. The state legislature voted it through. It would have kept people safe. And she killed it. Why? Why are you surrendering to Trump when you are the one holding the power? There should be zero caving to Trump. Under any circumstances, none. Donald Trump called Zohran a radical communist, a Marxist, out of control, someone who will destroy New York. And then Zohran had him eating out of the palm of his hand. We all acknowledge every single day that Donald Trump is not sharp and is easily manipulated by strong, confident people. And yet somehow, our Democratic leadership continues to act like the only option is to roll over and give in. You cannot say on one hand that Donald Trump always bends to Vladimir Putin's will and falls apart the moment a strong man shows him any kind of attention, and then turn around and say, we just don't know how to handle this guy, I guess we should just give up. You do know how to handle him. I am not saying take lessons from Putin, but the answer is right there in front of you. You do not cave, you stand up. And when you do, you become the one in control, and Donald Trump bends to your will. That is what has to happen. And at the very same time as we are refusing to give in to this administration and showing real strength, let's also build something. Let's push a real positive agenda, just like Zohran Mamdani is doing so effortlessly right here, all while still holding this administration fully accountable. Is his style of politics not just the best? Zohran can communicate his message clearly and confidently every single time, and that is because what he says is not a collection of talking points put together by a room full of consultants. This is not focus group tested. This is not carefully polished messaging designed to appeal to everyone. This is genuinely who he is. He has real, deeply held core values, much like Bernie Sanders, much like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and that is exactly what makes it so easy for him to clearly explain his vision. What is better for New York City? What is better for everyday New Yorkers? What protects their rights and their freedoms? What actually improves their lives? That is what he stands for. That is what drives everything he does. And here is the honest truth. I do not believe we can poll test our way out of the Democratic Party's failures. We cannot rebrand our way out of it. We cannot come up with a catchy slogan and suddenly turn things around. What we need is more people like Zohran.
Proud democratic socialist. It's clear Republicans plan to use you and that platform as an attack point come the midterms. Do you feel pressure to prove that your brand of democratic socialism works before the midterms?
I feel pressure from New Yorkers to deliver for them on their day-to-day needs. If Republicans want to attack a record of making it easier for families to raise their kids in the city, of workers to get paid what they're owed, of New Yorkers to get around the 5 boroughs, they can feel free to attack that. But what they will find is that the reason so many people across the city and across the country have lost faith in politics is because of that sense that politics has less and less of a relevance to their day-to-day needs. And in fact, one of the most relevant things that we can be doing in our politics today is addressing the material needs of working class people. That's exactly what we focused on.
What I'm asking is, whether you like it or not, you have been made to seem like a boogeyman of some kind from the Republicans, especially when you were running. So do you feel an added sense of pressure nationally because of the face you've become of the Democratic Party and specifically the progressive part of this party?
I'll be honest with you, I don't let myself think too much about what Republicans seek to portray me as. The power of an ideology is judged in the worth of its delivery. Delivery, at the end of the day, is every single thing that we want to do. It's why I spoke on Sunday about pothole politics as a way we describe the work that we do. Because for a long time, Republicans have sought to describe themselves as being driven by the needs of working people, when in reality, we've seen a chasm in what they've actually delivered for those people. I mean, look at the war in Iran today. We're talking about a federal administration that has spent close to $30 billion killing thousands of people at a time when working class people across this country cannot afford the bare minimum. To be told that a city-run grocery store is implausible, but spending more than $500 million a day to kill people in Iran and Lebanon is not only plausible but necessary. It speaks to a broken kind of politics. And what we're showing is that we can put forward not just our principles, but also the practical impacts of this work. We can deliver universal childcare and change 6,700 catch basins. We can take on bad landlords across the city and start to repave more than 1,000 miles of roadway. We can do all of these things where we've been told in the past you could only do one.
Has the war in Iran had an outsized impact specifically on the economy of the city?
Yes, the war in Iran has had an impact on the economy of this country. And even more than the economy, it's had an impact on the people.
And that means getting directly involved in primary elections and putting those kinds of people into office. That is why we talk about this on the show consistently. That is why we were backing Zohran from the very beginning, back at the start of last year. You can actually go watch that pinned video right now if you want. It is why I gave him my endorsement as early as I possibly could. The moment I got the two of us in front of a camera together, I endorsed him without hesitation because I genuinely believe in this man and what he represents. He is exactly what we need right now. And we will keep on lifting up Democrats, democratic socialists, to be more precise, like Zohran Mamdani, right here on this show. If you want to support that work, as always, hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting, everyone. Do not let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you then.